us for White Wellbeing.
Yay!
Let's eat.
Good afternoon, Hans. How are you?
On time, on target.
It's going to happen once in a while. Referring mostly to me, of course.
Of course.
Oh, I feel like I'm running late. Good afternoon, Robert. Good to see you. Benjamin is here, as is Daniel. Welcome to the Monday edition of the Shade Tree, White Wellbeing NWG Space. We hold this space every day at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on X, and it streams also to YouTube. We are a no white guilt community that meets to practice the concepts and lexicon developed by Jason Kuna, Mr. No White Guilt. You can find him here on X as at No White Guilt NWG, on YouTube and elsewhere as simply No White Guilt, and on the web at nowhiteguilt.org. We discuss a wide variety of topics of interest to white people and look for ways to apply solutions. I'm the Tree Godfather, your host. My co-host today is the absolute stud of No White Guilt, Mr. Hans. We run pretty casual here, but I do ask that you raise your hand if you'd like to jump in. Kindly don't talk over others. Otherwise, I just call on speakers in turn for their thoughts. If you'd like to hop in the conversation, just request a mic and we'll get you set up if X cooperates. We only ask that you comport yourself as much as possible to the Go Free lexicon, and please act like a proper lady or gentleman of the West as applicable. Let's go. All right. If you give me a few more minutes here, let me go ahead and pop a bunch of things up in a Jumbotron, including, as we do, our Westman of the day. And a couple of topics to get us started. Hopefully this won't be an incredibly long space today, but we take it how it comes. All right. My Westman of the day, in the far right of the Jumbotron, Alessandro Volta, keeping kind of in this week's theme of electricity. If this will cooperate and come up. I know we don't like Wikipedia, but, well, it is convenient. And for our purposes, it should be plenty accurate. He lived between 1745 and 1827. He was an Italian chemist and physicist. He was a pioneer of electricity and power and is credited as the inventor of the electric battery and the discoverer of methane gas. He invented the voltaic pile in 1799 and reported the results of his experiments in a two-part letter to the president of the Royal Society which was published in 1800. With his invention, Volta proved that electricity could be generated chemically and debunked the prevalent theory that electricity was generated solely by living beings. His invention sparked a great amount of scientific excitement and led others to conduct similar experiments, which eventually led to the development of the field of electrochemistry. Volta drew admiration from Napoleon Bonaparte for his invention and was invited to the Institute of France to demonstrate his invention to the members of the Institute. Throughout his life, he enjoyed a certain amount of closeness with the emperor, who conferred upon him numerous honors. Volta held the chair of experimental physics at the University of Pavia for nearly 40 years and was idolized by his students. Despite his professional success, he was inclined towards domestic life and which was more apparent in his later years when he tended to live secluded from the public life and more for the sake of his family. He died in 1827 from a series of illnesses which began in 1823. The Standard International Unit of Electrical Potential is named Volt in his honor. Now, there are several different units. Volt is a measure of electrical pressure. Then we have the ohm, which is a measure of electrical resistance, and the ampere, which of course is a measurement of how much electrical flow is going through a circuit. Now, those three things combined are about 90% of electrical engineering, and how we decide how circuits should be designed are all very closely interrelated with all those things. Let me get back out of here, get back to the space where I can see what's going on, and we'll welcome Janitor of White Noir. The nameless one has also arrived, as is Stop Antivitism. Mr. Hans, over to you, brother.
It's really interesting the connection with Napoleon because Napoleon seems to be quite because I remember he when he launched his expedition to Egypt, he took along 170 scientists. One of them was Champollion, who ended up the one who decoded the hieroglyphs, because they discovered on this expedition the Rosetta Stone was used as a brick in one of the buildings. So this Napoleon seems to be quite a strange character, because most military leaders are very focused, or military kings or emperors are very much focused on power. But it seemed like Napoleon, he used his power to indulge in his own interests. So it's interesting that um, he was very, because I get the feeling that it's not most of the time when someone like in Napoleon invites a scientist, your mind directly goes to, okay, he's interested in the technology, or how it can be used for warfare. But that's not at all the feeling that I get, because when he went into Egypt, it was all about, let's see what these pharaohs were up to 3,000 years ago, which wouldn't in any way advance your capability to make war. Very interesting character. I know almost nothing about him, but it seems he was a very interesting character. Bit of a tangent, but
So something interesting, among plenty of other things. I never realized there was any connection between the two. But just a little earlier, uh, on a thread I was getting a comment on. Now I had chosen him as a Westman of the day for, oh, I think I picked him out a couple of weeks ago. He's in a short list I have of just different Westmans of the day. And in a comment thread a little earlier, maybe a couple hours ago, this was in response to my comment about white men having invented electricity, which is technically not true. I mean, we didn't invent electricity; we discovered how to use it and measure it. And we created all the technology that effectively exists. And of course, this anti-white wanted to make a big deal of how the Egyptians had discovered electricity thousands of years ago, which of course is kind of overstating things because while there's some evidence that they may have discovered how to create electricity with some type of a Leyden jar device, they most definitely did not create computers, electronics, infrastructure, power generating stations, and all of the things that we created to put it to effective use, the electric motor, light bulbs, etc. So it's always interesting when these anti-whites bring up little tidbits like that as if that completely disproves and disowns us of that which we created. Cool Papa J is here, Jerome is here, and I hope I haven't missed anyone, but a New Hampshire Patriot is here. Thanks for picking up a mic. Go ahead, Mr. Hans.
So how many times these men of the West that we've um, talked about, how many times you see that they they make these discoveries and create these creations, not because they have some selfish goal in mind. It's because they are inquisitive. They need to know. They need to push the envelope. And if you compare it with other races, it's very different because they are very goal oriented. Um, and how many technologies got no attention until white men proved that they were useful to do useful things with, and then others take that and make very successful businesses. One that jumps to mind is moving pictures. Edison had the patents, and then a group with a different biospirit stole that, went to the other side of the US, and created Hollywood. And this is a pattern that repeats over and over again. And the way we need to stop it is when you make your invention and there's a truck full of cash that parks at your front door, don't sell out, because this is how these anti-white corporates, they don't have to innovate anymore, because they just watch who is doing what and then they just buy them. And this is sick. Why, if you are going to be a millionaire, why not use your company for good and still be a millionaire, than be a billionaire and watch your inventions being used to plow our people into the ground? And this happens over and over again. You can look at the long list of acquisitions, the game companies, Activision, Blizzard. It works the same every time. And it's sickening, this individualism where our white inventors just sell out. They sell out every time. And they are already in a situation where all money problems are gone. They can do what they want. I mean, Minecraft is another one. Um, the creator of Minecraft, he didn't have to work a day in his life anymore. He sold for billions to Microsoft. Now Microsoft has a trans character in Minecraft. So totally using it to destroy Western civilization. Notch is the programmer's name who sold out. Sickening. We must get this message to our people. If you invent something, don't sell out, please.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said with, again, as you pointed out many times, taking ownership of that which we create as well, and not letting it be pried from us. I can think of so many things that we've created that we didn't have to share with anybody, and in retrospect, shouldn't have. Nuclear weapons being a very big example. That's something we never should have allowed to anyone else to have. We put all the money and time into getting those developed, and we should have kept it. One little anecdote: I can remember being, just that curiosity and how to innovate things. I was 5 years old when I figured out that I could take a phonograph pickup and put it on my guitar and amplify my little wooden acoustic guitar. Now, of course, I found out years later that I, of course, was not the first one to do that. Guys like Les Paul had done that uh, pretty much at the same time, and of course, we had in much more of an advanced way. But I thought that was something interesting, that was something I kind of came up with independently. Mr. New Hampshire Patriot.
Thank you for the microphone. Good afternoon, everybody, and glad to be here. Just want to thank everybody for this space, and really enjoyed the conversations that we have here. On to the topic. Again, we typically discuss this, and we all come down to one answer. This one has two, but empathy, and our homogeneity, in society, to thinking that if we create something to better our fellow man, maybe he or she can create something to better his or her fellow man from there, so on and so forth. It wasn't meant to be, in my opinion, just to give away and to lose it. I believe there was another famous inventor, Nikolai Tesla, who didn't patent his ideas because of the whole idea of, this is information, let's share it. However, it has turned into, we've become not just the teachers but also the harborers of these anti-whites, immigrants, any other ethnicity than white well-being in that of nature. And then we teach them and they don't leave, they stay. Now, me personally, if I, let's say I was of a foreign descent, pick one, it doesn't matter, and I come to America and I see, okay, I get this education. Well, I personally would want to benefit my culture by what I have learned from another culture, and then we can adapt it from there. As a small business owner, I try to teach this to the guys coming through the door, and want to be an apprentice in this. And I says, listen, I'm going to teach you how I want it done, and this is the result I want. And then after I teach you, I don't care how you do it, as long as I get the same result. And I think that's something we need to push more towards, is to, if they want to come here and get educated and try and better, their society, because they're not benefiting our society in the slightest. They're hurting our education system. They're hurting our criminal justice system. They're hurting our political system. They're hurting America. They're like an anchor, and not the good kind. My wife is my anchor, but it's the good kind. They are the anchor that is the bad kind. They're dragging us down. They're killing our children, and making our society stupid. And I think that's what we have to push more towards, is getting these foreigners out, so that we can have a society where we can exist in a trusting society. where we can have empathy and not have to worry about it backfiring. I worry every day when my wife leaves the house if she's going to get mugged, raped, or shot every day. And I live in a 95 plus percent, 92 to 95% white state, and we're the safest state in the nation. We're the freest state in the nation, tax free. I can go on and on and on and on. Education freedom. We just got into the crypto thing with our budget impact, but even still, just in public and society around other people, especially my wife travels southern New Hampshire. Tree Godfather can probably vouch. Southern New Hampshire is not the same as anywhere else in New Hampshire. That is where you get the filth from Massachusetts. But yeah, so I'll land there. And again, thank you for this space. This is awesome. I appreciate every one of you guys.
Well, I always appreciate you coming. Blue Flame is here. 4 and Biosphere to West have arrived. I want to read in some comments while they are fresh. Robert says, hello, everyone, for White Wellbeing. And Grace writes, I'm just putting this out there for those who don't know. Today is the last day of the fiscal year for the government. The congressional member I work for is getting hit hard with calls. Dems are fighting for free health care for illegals, or they won't sign the bill. People are scared because of the shutdown, because that means Social Security checks will stop, among many other services. Technically, I believe they have until tomorrow at midnight to reach a deal. So we will see. But that is why I'll be in and out of the space today. No problem, Grace. Totally understood. Mr. Hans.
One other thing I wanted to mention was, if you look at the open source movement, the overwhelming contributors to open source are, I'm now talking contributors who are not sponsored, who do it on their own time, are overwhelmingly white males. And this is another thing that I picked up working in multiracial environments. Other programmers don't share. They see knowledge as coins, as gold, as valuable, that you don't open your fist and let the knowledge fall out, because then once you share it, everyone has it, and then it has no value anymore. But white people are not like that. If you look at the top 100 contributors of the Linux kernel, I think there's one Chinese, Theodore Zhou. The rest are all white males. And this is something in us. We don't value it because we create it all the time. So everything that seems to come easy is not valued. But this puts us at a severe disadvantage. Because do you think the Chinese are going to respect the open source licenses of all the open source software? Or do you think they're just going to take our inventions and build on it? Build their own stuff? That's absolutely what they're going to do. And this is something that I was very gung-ho about open source, because your code does improve because of the criticism if you have a successful product. But I changed my thinking about that, because we are in a hostile environment now. We can't think like that anymore. This is the jungle. We had Western civilization, now we have the jungle, and we need to start realizing that we are at a disadvantage, and we need to leverage any advances that we can. And sharing information is not helping anyone, not helping us. It's just helping everyone else.
I can tell you already, I know the Chinese don't respect anything. One of the companies I worked for is a German equipment OEM that makes machinery for the wire and cable industry. And the big part of the selling point of one machine in particular was the way it winds wire onto the spools, and it does so with a very specific auto correction routine that I wrote. And wouldn't you know, it was found in a Chinese machine who not only did they knocked off the machine and copied all of the exact same software components that went into this machine, right down to the color scheme, the name. And they were, of course, selling it as the OEM. And of course, they weren't the real OEM. The OEM was this company in Germany. And that's a lawsuit that's still going on. Uh, so, yeah, they're not going to respect it. Blue Flame, you should have a microphone headed your way. Go ahead, Hans.
So I remember a funny story when the site Stack Overflow launched. A few weeks after that, the creators of the site discovered that there was this Indian guy who cloned the whole site. So he contacted the webmaster of this clone site, and he said it was very strange because the webmaster was an Indian and he was very friendly, but he couldn't understand what the problem was because the Indian said, "Well, I worked hard to make this site also." It was hard work cloning the site, so what's the problem?
Guess it's a lot of work hitting Control C. Mr. Blue Flame, good afternoon. How are you?
Hey guys. Oh, just a second. Oh, there we are. Yeah, actually, just listening to that, guys. It reminds me of I think it was the Japanese. I'm not 100% on that, but it was one of the Far Eastern countries. That there were some of them invited into a U.S. factory, and they had to go through all sorts of controls, so they could not do what commercial spying, or I'm not one industrial spying. I'm not 100% what the English terminology is. um and they would be actually very creative. There is apparently one story where some of these guys, so they went through an entire tour, um and then at a certain point, some of the people that were invited from across the world, like a specific group, was told that they were told, it's like, you're gonna take your shoes off right now, because they noticed that they were leaving stains on the floor that were very weird. It's like, we're not talking about muck or anything like that. And sure enough, the these guys were forced to to give up their shoes. These shoes were inspected, and they very shortly thereafter found out that they had a type of glue on their shoes, with the intention to, if that glue would come into contact with certain types of surfaces, like let's say a metallic surface, or a surface that is coated into some kind of I don't know, a certain paint, a certain resin, something like that, then it would keep slivers from the floor in the glue. And then when they would, of course, go back home, so to speak, then they would take these slivers out to inspect, like, what is it made of, and can we copy it, and all that sort of stuff. And then that story, yeah, there are stories that go back to the Second World War, at least. They are led in good faith, presented with some, or with a bit of a tour, and this is how you get repaid as a Westman. This sort of attempted theft in a way of well, what have you. And well, I suppose that China in general, or at least under the current regime, is notorious for stealing intellectual properties, right? They simply see an intellectual property and they run off with it. If it's from outside of their own nation, it's like they'll run off with whatever they can, and they have very little regard for the planet in and of itself. I mean, a lot of pollution. I think most here are familiar with that. The vast majority of the pollution comes out of those parts of the world. I maybe it's a bit of a tangent, but I actually recently found out there's like between 6 and 9 main rivers in the world through which the most pollution flows on the planet, and all of them are like in the Far East, I think. Uh, I should try to find that, but yeah. So not only do they try to run off with the stuff that our people creates, they absolutely do not know how to handle it. They do not know even how to recycle. You know, it's like if you would go back like 60 or 70 years in time, there would be like these scandalous piles of garbage that you would see all across Europe, right? And it's only like in the last maybe 20, 30 years that we've really seen that getting cleaned up, which is good. That's excellent. At the very least we can we can do something about it, even it's going to take a minute, fine. um yeah, but there are places where you know the earth itself will have centuries, if not millennia, of bits of what is that called, microplastics or micro metals, in the soil. You like it's just ruined earth. You cannot do anything with it for who knows how long, or until again it's Whitey that finds some solution to extract all of that filth out of the ground. And yeah. So the damage is not only the theft, it's also the lack of what they know what to do with yeah, the leftovers, the garbage that comes out of some industries, right? And to the ruination of everything. It's like there there are some parts of the world where it's like what Tolkien's description of Mordor. you know there's a little bit left that's growing there, but even that's not going to last, and everything else is just this stark wasteland. It's yeah. And what do we see also, of course, that a lot of the people who live in those parts, if that's what you can call it, they ruin the places where they are, and then they come to the West, and just zero self-awareness, absolutely zero care, no looking ahead into the future, just dumping their filth in our rivers now, in our pools. uh Hunting or fishing for species that should be left alone. Yeah, yeah. It's like it's just a whole set of, like, they do one thing that they have no business doing, and an entire domino effect starts playing off that goes in all directions, and all of it ends up being destructive. Yeah. But other than that, I'm doing fine. Thanks for asking.
Fine business. Our unofficial co-host is bringing my attention to another space running now where they're saying justice isn't blind, it's anti-white. And she says, wonder where they heard that phraseology from. Well, of course, that comes from this community, but apparently they're fumbling over how to describe it correctly, because, of course, they don't have the lexicon that we do, the full lexicon. So I find that's very interesting. Thank you for that. Mr. New Hampshire Patriot.
Yes, I agree with what Blue Flame was saying. I'm not a proponent for destroying the planet or anything like that, but America, we have these regulations and guidelines and things that we have to abide by, regardless if we agree with them or not, right? For the most part, but yet, all these other countries can just take it in India, the Yamuna River, which is the trashiest river, and it's literally full of trash. It goes through Delhi, I believe it does. I'm not sure the other countries it goes through. Same thing with other parts of Thailand, other parts of China, Asia predominantly, and the Middle East. They don't hold a culture or anything to nature, and I believe we spoke about that. A prime example locally to me, everybody on my street is predominantly white. We predominantly own our homes. We all work. The lawns are groomed. There's no trash when trash day goes out. If anything's on the ground, people pick it up, et cetera, et cetera. Yet you cross the street where there are a few foreigners and there some renters and whatnot. The yards are just filthy, trash overflowing, the whole nine. And then what ends up happening when the wind blows, right? Or if we have a snowstorm and the snow gets pushed around, it ends up in my yard. I pick it up. But we were in the Paris Accord, and I believe Trump got us out of that. Anybody can correct me if I'm wrong, because we were putting the most money into this Save the Earth scam that they've been doing. The Earth isn't. The Earth goes through its freezing and heating just like everything else. The core is nobody. I can't recall the temperature, but it goes through a heating and cooling, and it's been doing so ever since we've been keeping track of it. Yes, the ozone layer has been depleting slightly, but the ice caps are not decreasing. They're actually increasing. But I still think we should just do our part, and try to save. I mean, I still can't understand why when I go to Maine, I have to buy a paper bag. Um, and I have to pay 5 cents for the recycle, but yet every major food producing company, I'm just going to stop it there because we can go into other industries where they use plastic as well. But as far as the food industry, your loaf of bread is in a plastic, your Cheez-Its that are in a box, it's also in a bag, your cereals in a bag, all these things are in a bag. In the freezer section, the McNuggets are in a bag, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The meat's wrapped in plastic, but yet I can't use plastic. Make it make sense.
There's no way in earth I'm going to be able to make it make sense, brother, because it doesn't make sense. I can tell you that. It's kind of what Blue Flame was saying. I can tell you, having been to most of these places, you go to Lahore in Pakistan, and you got a guy sitting there on his little stool, and he's recycling batteries. He takes the top off the old battery, dumps the acid right on the ground. They don't give a crap. I've been to India where they do oil changes by opening a drain plug. They let it go out on the ground, and then they put the plug back in and put some new oil in the engine and go. These are things, of course, that we would never do here because it's not part of our part of our biospirit is our respect for the environment. And I'm not a huge environmental nut, but I do believe that in treading lightly, we can tread a little easier. I do a lot of farming, and usually I grow all of my own food pretty much, certainly as much as possible. I wasn't able to do that this year because of moving and all that, but I don't use pesticides. I don't use anything that's not natural anyway. You know, uh, Captain Jack's Dead Bug Brew is just it's a naturally occurring bacteria. I use that for beetles and grubs and stuff. Other than that, I don't fertilize. I just use compost from the chicken pens and all that. There's definitely smart ways to do things, and if you do those things right, it's a lot easier on the environment. Um, With that, Mr. Hans.
So if you look at climate activism, it's always anti-white. Um, and you know that because you look at their conclusions. Their conclusions is usually the white taxpayer must be victimized, or some white country must be victimized. And they don't actually care about their pretexts. If you look at carbon footprint, um, that's used as a common pretext, but we can see that it doesn't really matter because they have no problem with importing intruders from sub-Saharan Africa into Northern Europe, where their carbon footprint increases by a factor of 1,000. No problem with that. No one even talks about that. And this um, goes back to what Jason said the other day, that we never reevaluate anti-white policies. We always reevaluate how can we, quote unquote, improve our Western norms and standards, but that's just a euphemism for white erase. But we never get to review the anti-white policies. Those always go more anti-white. So, but the other thing is, we mustn't let anti-whites make us choose between preserving our plant and animal life and Western civilization, because we can have both. In fact, Western civilization has the best record with preserving our plant and animal life. I mean, I don't know but at some stage, the Netherlands were considering creating another province. And then there was some rare bird that was going to probably go extinct if they do that. So they shut down that project based on the fact that a whole new province that they could have had that they decided not to have because there's this one bird species that doesn't breed or doesn't live on any other place. And this is typically what we do. And look at the biodiversity of China and India. Um, very, very low. They only keep around what's useful to them. We keep around. We feel a responsibility to preserve what we got. We are the we are the managers, and this is something in us. If you think of all these green initiatives, the people at the ground who are doing the work, the volunteers, they're all white. In the management and in the executive, then you can see all the non-whites who misuse that power to execute on the anti-white imperatives. But otherwise, it's all white people who care about the environment. So don't tell us. And the pollution in the rivers is just one more thing. It's just a pretext to get us to bend over backwards. They would find some bird and then say we shouldn't build this pipeline here. But if you drill into that, you'll see most of the time these are all bogus, and this is just a political objective that they are pushing.
Yeah, I think we are extremely good stewards of our lands. Mr. Biospirit.
I think janitor was ahead of me.
Mr. Janitor, then.
Thank you. Can you hear me or no? I'm on the phone. Oh, okay. It looks like it's working. Okay.
You're good, brother.
I'll definitely let you. Um. I'll celebrate that deduction you did of the anti-white policy uh point you brought up, Hans. Um. And I think if I'm going to bring up the the other space. I don't know who. I know that's probably Janice talking, but I don't know which space that is. But I was wondering, Hans, did you see the So like a few days, like 3 days ago, I posted and the team reposted, shared my my swash, and it used True Godfathers. It was a quote tweet, and it was the "Justice Isn't Blind." It's like how I. And then like the next day, so yesterday, like before the space started yesterday, I think. Did you ever see the two way to tweet? I don't know his name. Oh, Daniel Conkenin or something like that. Did you because yeah, did you bring that up yesterday?
I saw that. Yes, I saw that he used that phrase, and I was very glad. Of course, he spelled anti-white differently, but that will come.
Okay, great. Yeah, I was super, yeah, same way. And then also, just last thing, the GPT, I think they brought it back to uh stabilizing it because it was really wonky recently, like I explained. So I might be able to record that now because it's working just quite well now, and maybe even better than before. Um, and I'd love to talk about it more with you guys, but I think that's it for today.
Biospirit.
Yeah, I wanted to speak about what New Hampshire Patriot was talking about with the bags, because I came from like the beginning of the um, environmental movement of recycling and all of that when I was a kid in grammar school. Was when we first started doing it through the schools, and we would collect bottles and cans and newspaper and stuff, and it all had to be done very specifically. You had to take the um, if there was any paper on the cans, you had to take that off. You had to wash the bottles. You had to flatten the cans. It was all very specific of all of this work you had to do it. But we were doing it because we were, I suppose you would use the terms now, we were white guilted into doing it by being shown pictures of the horrors of the what was happening to the planet. And if we didn't do something immediately, then it was going to be the end of civilization. So we, as small kids, we really took to it. And I remember we in our class we even had um, where we divided our neighborhoods that we all came from up into like quadrants, and then we were all going to go out and pick up trash and things like that. And the thing that I remember about that is my friend and I we were going on um, our neighborhood rounds to pick up trash, and there wasn't any. It's because it was such a pristine neighborhood. There was nothing to be found, and so I wanted to share that. So I've been like recycling and doing that stuff since the beginning. But when we had COVID and all of the shutdowns and everything, the thing that I noticed was that immediately they said you could not bring your own bags anymore. And I'd always done that. And so um, you had to use either the plastic or the paper bags from the store, which they charge you for here in California. Same as there. And I was so taken aback by that, because it was like, okay, so we just went from it's the end of the world if we don't um, recycle, if we don't stop using the bags, and we have to use our own shopping bags and stuff, to now it doesn't make any difference. And then I started seeing how, with all of those ridiculous masks that people were wearing, and then throwing away all over the place, and they were showing that they were floating up on the beaches all over the world, and just the horrid, massive amount of waste that generated. And I realized through reading different articles and such that even the recycling that we do now, the majority of the plastics that go into the recycling, they have no market for it, so it goes into the into the landfills anyway. So all of that time, work, and effort that people do to separate their stuff out and everything, so much of it just goes right into the landfill. And I found that out when I called the garbage people one time. They didn't pick up our recycling bin, and she said, "Oh yeah, we'll pick it up, but it'll just go into the regular garbage truck." I was like, so they don't care. The garbage company doesn't care. They've just been mandated to do this thing that we're all mandated to do. And I have to say that it's really, really kind of soured me on the whole thing, because clearly the people who are up at the top making the decisions about this kind of stuff don't care about it and don't follow through on it. And so it just kind of gets back to what you guys were talking about, of it's just another one of the ruses used to by anti-whites to keep us doing something that keeps our attention off of our white erasure and the anti-whiteism that's bringing us to the brink of the end of Western civilization. So I still do like cleanliness, and I support environmental movements that are what I consider to be practical and actually do something. But so many of these organizations now do not do what they purport to do, like the Sierra Club. They actively sorry, I got distracted. The Sierra Club actively promotes the bringing in of the illegal border hoppers. So here they are coming across the border and leaving just a complete trail of trash and dirt and destruction of the environment as they're coming into our countries. And the Sierra Club is promoting that. So how anti-white is that? That's very anti-white. So why would you want to give any money to them? So anyway, that I've been rambling for a long time. I'll let somebody else talk. Thanks.
Hey, it's never a problem, brother. Good afternoon, Fornall, AAA. Eindelen, Julia, Cardia, Nebula. It's interesting, Biosphere. I remember when plastic bags were introduced, because, of course, we had to save the trees, and plastic bags were the solution to solve all the problems that were going to save the planet. And now, of course, here we are. Many places are going back to paper because it's infinitely more recyclable than most plastics. Those plastic bags, shopping bags, for example, are very difficult to handle with recycling machinery, and not all plastics are even recyclable anyway. They have to be thermoforming plastics, not thermosetting plastics. Things like that are more along the lines of Bakelite, for example, cannot be recycled. So there's only a select tiny amount of plastics that we even can recycle, and there is no market for it. I know full, like, again, back from the industries I worked in, 30-yard dumpsters full of plastic spools because they were the wrong type. They would just get landfilled because there was no market to pick them up and recycle them. And even the ones that were of a recyclable type, it just wasn't economically feasible. So they'd throw the reels out, and that was it. And It's all a big scam. The Hampshire Patriot.
Well, you pretty much took a lot of what I was going to say right out of my mouth. Because I'm a little bit older. I'm a late Gen Xer, and I too remember the push to save paper. I in fact remember a story. I can't recall what year it was. I was in high school, where remember when I'm going to date myself here. We used to make our book covers out of paper bags. Well, for those of us that were poor, anyways. Otherwise, they would purchase them. So yeah, I remember that. I've always been a recycler. Just I don't know, it just came natural. My parents never did. If I knew a better way, I keep hearing this argument. It costs more money to recycle than it is to make it new. I can't fully wrap my head around that, being somebody that's mechanically inclined and have built things from scratch, added on and made other things. I can't fully comprehend that. If you melt down an aluminum can, why can't it not be another aluminum can? I've smelted lead. I make my own ammo. In the bullets, I cast my own bullets, so on and so forth. It's such a savings, partly because, well, it is, but it isn't. You end up shooting more. So that it ends up being the problem. But, we end up taking wheel weights, and which are mixed with different metals. We smelt them down through a process, and then we end up making ingots, lead ingots of 95, 98% pure lead. So I just can't see how, whether a glass is green, blue, purple, yellow, orange, whatever the color, it's still made of the same base, right? I wish I knew of a way to make it more, economical. To add on to the recycling thing, we ship like not only do we throw it back into the landfill, but we also ship it to other countries. China is one of the largest purchasers of our recyclables. One prime example is back when I was doing commercial framing and residential, but for a large company down in Boston. We were doing tenant fit ups. Tenant fit ups are large buildings that are already a structure, and then you make apartments based on the plans and the details, etc. So we had this large, 5 or 6 floor, probably 300,000 or 400,000 square feet per floor. So if you could just imagine, it's a ginormous building. Well, they ended up shipping us drywall, and we not only did the layout, but and the framing, metal framing. Metal framing is a lot different than stick framing. The headers are different, so things are different, but it doesn't matter. It was metal framing nonetheless. We end up getting the drywall delivery because I will never drywall something I didn't frame. If you've ever done drywalling, you can relate. I will never tape what I haven't drywalled, and if you've ever taped, you can relate. We end up getting this shipment of like 6 or 7 large flat body trucks of drywall because we're expecting to drywall the job. And we start getting the drywall loaded. We're not doing that. We're just doing our framing. We go to start laying the drywall, and I'm cutting for 2 people at the time. I notice when I'm cutting it, it's different. It's not the same consistency of the gypsum that we get from Canada, the drywall there. So I start asking around, where did this drywall come from? They're like, oh, it came from China. It's made of recycled goods. We saved a lot of money. Blah blah blah. Well, wouldn't you? So I immediately said, oh, we'll be back here in 6 months. Well, I must be a fortune teller. I must know the future because in no less than 6 months, we were back there to reinstall brand new drywall from Canada. Thank you. So some gypsum drywall. And yeah, I'll just land it there. I'm rambling.
I'm reminded of the other day when I posted some welding I did, and I think it was Grace who got a chuckle out of my use of the word Chinesium for this mystery metal that I TIG welded. Mr. Hans.
So one of my friends, he lives in the Netherlands, and when I visited, it was the first time that I saw this multiple trash bin scenario, and he was quite concerned that we in South Africa are not doing that. But anyway, so over time, his street got white erased, and he started to get into tussles with his neighbor, because the non-white neighbor, just ignores the fact that you must put glass in the one and you must put organic in the other one. So that's white erasure. And then after a while, as the street got more non-white neighbors, then he quieted down. And the next thing that I heard, he stopped doing it because apparently they no longer fine you. So we can see the life cycle of white erasure. It starts with the people in your street, and then they get numerical courage, and you get numerical diffidence. You no longer enforce your Western norms, and then at some point it reaches your government, and then your Western norms and standards just disappear. And now suddenly you no longer find for these things that are technically still in place. And I wanted to tell him that here in South Africa, when that whole initiative started, the non-whites here just they just saw, well, we can just efficiently stop this before it even starts, because it's just a non-starter here. I mean, we are struggling, or not we, the anti-white regime is struggling to just get normal trash removal to work. So that's already a challenge.
You know, it reminds me of practical experience. When I was first started dating my first wife, and her parents lived in this particular neighborhood in West Springfield, and it was all subsidized housing. These were individual houses, and it was subsidized, but it was all white. And you would never know. It was a very nice neighborhood. Everybody kept their lawn neat. They would have decorate for the seasons, and there was never trash. It was always very, very neat. And then, of course, over the years of going and visiting them there, as the neighborhood became less and less white, and more anti-white non-whites moved in, lawns stopped being cared for. Couches would just be sitting out front for one sat there for years, just rotting in the front, right in the front yard, right next to the street, and the decay was visible. It was. I remember that was so striking to me. Like, well, why don't these people don't want? They want to live in a dump. Why doesn't it bother them? Of course, nowadays I understand that that's a difference in biospirit. That's they're they have a completely different uh, biospirit from us, and our norms are not their norms. Their norms is that's all okay. Cardia, you've been patient. My apologies, brother. Come on in.
Hey, no worries, man. How you guys doing today? Pretty good?
We're hanging in there.
Good. Yeah, just a quick comment on recycling. I always kind of thought it was a little bit scammy. Essentially, they're making money off of selling that recycled product. So what you're doing is they're coming to collect their inventory from you for free, and you're actually paying them you're paying them to collect it. So free inventory, and they get paid to come and collect it. It's a really good business model, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, you're not wrong. For the stuff that's purely recyclable. That is how it works. I know I have 2 bins here. I have to pay for 2 bins. One's for recyclables, and of course, not only do I pay to get rid of the recyclables, but then of course they get paid to do what they do when they eventually sell it. Mr. Hans?
I just want to say, because New Hampshire Patriot talked about um, people who are renters and people who are owners. So there was my neighbor was a bank manager. He moved, a white bank manager who got white erased, and then the bank consulted him. And so obviously the diversity hire had to train the diversity, or the diversity fire had to train the diversity hire. So, but the thing is, white people who get in that position, they think it's great because they are paid more than what they got when they were full-time employed. But what they don't realize is this is a dead end, because once they are gone, no other white person gets into the bank. But anyway, so and then he moved to another area, and now I have a black neighbor, and it's just, I mean, our street was pristine all the time, and now there's always trash that I pick up when I stop at the gate and I get in, I go out and pick up trash. This is just part of my life now. One time the street was clean. The neighbor had guests, and these guests come with black. Their cars are somehow always black Porsches, black BMWs. They like black and chrome. That's their favorite uh, combination. And then when the guests leave, there are like 15 pieces of trash on the sidewalk. And like you said, that is going to spread through the neighborhood. So better pick it up when it's together. So then I go and pick up his trash. And this is just part of my life now. And this is a very peculiar thing. Not very peculiar, but it's one of the things that you notice is that whites have a definite biospiritual allergy to litter, and others don't. I remember I was on a vacation, and we were driving in the neighborhood, a beautiful area. It's in Natal, everything's green, double-story houses, and I told my wife, "This is a black neighborhood." My wife said, because I saw a piece of toilet paper in one of these expensive houses in one of the fences. It's fluttering in the wind. And I mean, that will never survive in a white neighborhood. My wife is enraged. She says, she's upset. And then we pass a park where children are playing, and it's wall to wall, all black children. This happened a couple of times, and so my wife's expression of rage changed to amazement. I can estimate the population of the neighborhood by the level of litter, and it goes. Black is the most, Indian is the second most, and then colored is the least, and then white is totally clean. That's how it works.
You're not wrong. You are not wrong. In the conversation earlier, we were talking about sharing our technology and things. I guess my middle topic up here in the Jumbotron does kind of play a little bit into that. This is from Deport Foreign Criminals, and it's a short video clip of some TV show or other. I'm not really sure which, to be honest. It says, "We've been the white saviors for too long. It's been a effing thankless task and ended up with our own kids getting raped and murdered. Time to look after our own, not someone else's. And in this video, which is just under 2 minutes, it's this. I assume this is set in Africa, and there's this woman who's caring for this young black child who, one of these starving Africans that we used to hear about, the eat what's on your plate because there's starving children in Africa. This, of course, being one of them. And the underlying premise, of course, is, these people are there saving these people and not raising her own children, not creating her own children, her own family, not helping anything in Western kind. To the contrary, this is another one that'll end up in Europe at some point, probably on the white man's welfare and possibly harming us directly. So I wanted to throw that subject out there. Hans, if you can take over for just a minute, I got to take care of my insulin stuff real quick.
Will do.
Hans, the blue flame has his hand up.
No, he hasn't. Blue flame, is your hand up? If your hand is up, please speak.
Curious. I wonder if it's bugging out. Talking about litter, and I guess you did. I couldn't help but think about the disease that this is going to take, that is going to come out of this, if this keeps going, right? I think that a lot of people don't realize that all of these places where this sort of pollution takes place, there's also a lot of very nasty diseases that are floating around those places, and they never go anywhere, right? Not even speaking about, I guess, also about the vermin that is attracted to all of that. And truly, you can keep going on and on and on. Yeah, it's disgusting, and maybe this is something that, to some degree, might be useful in our advocacy towards the future. Maybe. I mean, it would be, I guess, one of the lesser points, but no less could be a valuable one. That's many of our people might think twice, uh, about heeding what anti-whites have to say, because then the whole thing is, well, either you're going to go along with the anti-whites and you end up in some disease-ridden rat's nest, I guess. Like, if that's what they want for themselves, they're welcome to it. But sane people are probably going to more likely to go along with what we have to say and work towards a society as we want it, where that sort of filth just simply doesn't happen, does take place, or very minimally at the very minimum. As far as what the three fathers said about non-white children that are being raised by white families, they're adopted or what have you. There are plenty such stories out. Well, stories, yeah, plenty of these figures who, at the youngest of ages, say the age of 3 or 4, they're adopted by by some some white families. And in my personal life, I have yet to see one instance where that becomes a success. I've witnessed some of these families who do this sort of thing. These children I'm speaking anecdotally, and I'm not saying this is what always happens, but what I am saying is 100% of all the cases where I've seen it, the types who, these non-white children who then, are allowed to grow up in the West to have that privilege, they spit on it every single time in the most disgusting of ways. I know of one type brought in here, as a toddler, technically no real conscious connections with his racial or background, doesn't know anyone of his own race. Here is into that hip hop stuff or rap stuff or whatever it's called, and yeah, that one is the type who will be poisoning people's drinks in parties with all sorts of drugs, has a whole sling of records of theft and violence, harassing girls. There is another story of which I know of one that, again, wasn't raised to be Islamic. He was from Arab descent. The other one was from African descent. There's another one that I know of Arab descent. He's not with us anymore, and that is because he decided to join a terrorist organization in the Middle East. He even left a letter to his mom, the white woman who raised him. It's like, the letter went something like, "I'm sorry, mom, but I really have to do this. Bye-bye," or something like that. It's like, yeah, 16, 17 years of investment into this little shit. And well done, white woman. You raised a monster. Not even that she was telling him to do this sort of thing. He just figures like, that's my people. I'm off. And promptly, I don't know what happened there, but he didn't come back. Can tell you that much. And several other such cases, like these people who are essentially half breeds, I suppose is what you call that. They're basically raceless, and it's not that they outright hate whites, but you can see the disdain they have. Well, the casual disdain that they seem to be, so they aren't aware of it themselves. What would that look like? For example, one that I had to go to school with. She was like, white father, and then I guess I don't even know, North African mother, something like that. And she, like you could tell, she would always try to influence younger, pretty white girls to to join this, to join her politics. And if these girls would fall for this nonsense, then she would casually, through doing this, ruin these girls their lives. Like that some older women are telling these girls, like, stay away from her. She's trying to ruin you, right? And then when the question is raised, like, why is she doing that? These girls haven't hurt her. It's like because she realizes on some level that she should be so pretty. She definitely isn't. You can see faintly that she is partly of the descent of someone who's white, but it doesn't compete. And taste or no taste, these are the actions that she undertakes. And yeah, it's just that it baffles the mind how much time and energy and resources, money is wasted, years and years of investment into someone who should be thankful that they were given this chance. And they couldn't care less. In fact, they're angry about it, they're bitter about it, they're envious. It's absolutely disgusting, and it's time for our people to realize that too.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Now, of course, the premise in this video is these are missionaries in Africa, but it's kind of much the same thing. And I do find it interesting that when you have children who, first of all, it proves that biospirit is indeed real, right? But isn't it interesting how the mixed children always identify with their non-white half? That's the identity they choose. Mr. Hans.
Yes, that's exactly what I want to talk about, because they don't have a people. They are mixed. They are not accepted by the non-white race. But the thing is, when anti-whites tell our children that they were born guilty into an evil race, the non-white children are in the same room. And the room is not only in school, because the anti-white narrative is not only coming out of the teacher's mouth. The anti-white narrative is everywhere. It's in every movie. It's in every children's book, every song. The anti-white narrative is everywhere, and it tells children the same thing. The white boy is the naughty boy. The white man is the evil man, and everyone else is moral, sage, and good. Um, so what? This is why that non-white child identifies uh, um, with his non-white half, and this one who went off to do a terrorism. It's not that he identifies with that group, Arabs, whatever. Possibly he will be killed when he gets there because he's going to speak too white. It's that he wants to harm, he wants to make war on his own essence because he feels that white part inside him, and he believes he's half evil.
So if you look at the far left of the jumbotron, it's a short clip um, from Make Europa Snow, and it says, "This is the most beautiful answer." And the question is, what do you want to be when you grow up? And the answer is a mom. And this clip shows lots of, I can't tell if it's the same woman with the same baby, but you see this child growing up a little bit from a baby, and it's a beautiful white mother, white child. It certainly made me smile. And of course, you know, thinking back to that second clip with the white woman in Africa caring for the black child, well, this is what she should be doing. She should be in one of our homelands with one of our strapping white men raising her own little family and continuing our people. Uh, it doesn't mean we want harm for the non-whites, but why are we taking away from our people to do this for others? Anti-whiteism. Go ahead, Hans.
So um, that this is, it looks like, I mean, these are triple A actors, so this must be a movie, a scene from a movie about the white savior. But this is an extremely effective anti-white attack because of all the attacks, because the two main directions that they always come from is framing our victimization as well-being for someone else or as retributive justice. But from all this falls into the first category. But this is an extremely effective tactic because it puts you right into the story of the poor non-white child. And we talk a lot about how powerful it is to live in a story, because we all live in stories and we want to be the hero in our story. So what anti-whites present us is the only story that you can be a hero in is when you help the vulnerable non-whites. And this is what makes this so powerful in a bad way. Um, and this is why, think about how difficult it is to defend against this kind of anti-white narrative. Because no, if you any kind of defense is going to make you automatically the villain, because you are going to advocate for the little black child dying. Um, and this shows you how important it is to focus on well-being and not ill-being for someone else. This demonstrates to you why we relentlessly focus on the well-being of white people. Because the moment that we talk about the intruder that comes across the border and how bad he is, the moment you do that, you force the audience to look through the intruder's eyes at the world. But if you put the focus on our children, on our white men who are being white erased from work, on our justice system, then the focus keeps on our people and our victimization. Because think about it in this way. We cannot do anything about this anti-white narrative. These movies go out into the world. The best we can do is not to trigger those anti-white mean pathogens, because the moment they trigger, everyone wants the crying non-white child to stop crying, and then you're dead in the water. So this is a demonstration for me that the only counter to this is to focus on the well-being of white people, and the meme curative. The best meme curative that I can now come up with is our children are no less valuable than theirs.
Amen to that, brother. It's interesting. I had an employee here today, and she noticed when she went shopping that there was several white women with non-white partners. And she asked me, she says, why do they find him attractive? And then says, well, and I explained to her, we live in an era of anti-white programming. It's one of two reasons. They're either trying to, it's either retributive, they feel like they're evil and they're owed going out with a non-white partner to as some kind of retribution for their being white or ignorance. And it made for a very interesting conversation. And I bring that up because, of course, it's these real life conversations that matter most. Um, these spaces are very valuable, very powerful. But it's the everyday interaction with vagues that I think matter most in getting them to understand that that is the victimization of us. It is white erasure of our people. If this mother wants to mother a non-white child, the focus needs to be that this is a victimization of our people. We're not getting cared for. Our people aren't getting continued. I'll go ahead, Hans, and Julia, I'll set you up with a mic.
This is another one of those attacks that is very hard to defend against, because anti-whites there are so many Hollywood movies where the evil person is the one who objects to the beautiful blonde girl going out with the black guy. But a good way to go about, I think, is to point out that this is not a case of two people falling in love. This is a pattern that is happening because of the fact that the white male is so degraded in the anti-white narrative, that white females choose the one who is presented in the anti-white narrative as always more manly, more successful, more moral, and on the other side, that they are white guilted because in the anti-white narrative, white people are born guilty into an evil race, and the way to atone is to opt out of the white nuclear family, because who in his right mind wants more white babies? But the reality is the white nuclear family is the ideal necessary for the continuation of our people. This is a fact. Everyone can see that. So we need to celebrate our ideals, but instead what's happening is every other lifestyle is celebrated. Not only celebrated, the regime incentivizes it. If you opt out of the white nuclear family, then suddenly white erasure requirements in admissions and hiring no longer apply to you. So it's a carrot and a stick. The carrot is you can now get that job, you can now get that admission. The stick is all this anti-white psychological abuse about grievances that you were not personally responsible for. So yes, anti-whites will come to you and say, so if a non-white person, or if a white person falls in love with a non-white person, what now? Yes, you can do nothing about that, but that's not what's happening. That's not what's happening. What's happening is totally artificial and unnatural. And you can see that in the ads, you can see that in the movies, how they force this.
Very well articulated. Julia, you had your hand up.
Oh, well, Hans just said everything I was going to say, but yeah, I was just going to remark that I think that's a much bigger driving factor than retributive justice. It's just that, yeah, white men are made so unmasculine and goofy and weak, and of course they hate themselves. And who wants anyone who hates themselves? The first thing, the key to confidence, right, is loving yourself. And there's so many white men now who just hate themselves, so they can never be loved. It's very sad.
I'll add in too that something CKO had said a while back that women have a biological drive to want to have a family. Most women, anyway. And of course, when they're in a white race environment where white men aren't available because of anti-whiteism, they will pick whatever is available because they have that biological drive to start a family any way necessary. Curious what your thoughts on that are, Julia. Being that you're the one female here.
I mean, I can understand it objectively. Personally, I can't because I am so repulsed by other races. There, yeah. So I can't understand it personally, but objectively, intellectually, I can understand it.
I appreciate your candor. New Hampshire Patriot.
Yeah, believe it or not, I have an opinion on this. I met my wife 20 some odd years ago, and she had 23, as a matter of fact. She had two from a previous marriage. He's a piece of shit, no longer with us, so he paid his price. So I can't talk about it. Anyway, so there was a daughter and a boy and a girl. I call him my stepson, stepdaughter, but technically I've been around longer than their father has. So what I'm getting at is that there was a stepdaughter. She was 10. All growing up, she didn't have boyfriends because I think of that exact reason. we were in Nashua at the time, which is more multicultural than all of New Hampshire. So, you know, she was around these other individuals and she had no interest in them because she knew, I think deep down inside, she will never tell me, that she knew she had worth, she had value in it, and it's in us. We all whites have value. I don't give me the lowest IQ redneck that you can find, and I'll take him over anybody, over any other race, aside from same thing, another white man. Now she is with has been with a white man. They're married, been together, and now she never wanted children, and now she does, because she has found that quote unquote white knight. So yeah, I can attest to that. I wish more white women would be more aware of that, instead of giving away a piece of their soul. And that's what it is. You know, when a woman lays with many men, trying to find their quote unquote soulmate, which is few and far between. They end up giving a piece of their soul to these other individuals in search of this, even more so when they're tainted, when they have tainted the bloodline. That is just repulsive. But I'll land there.
Yeah, you know, there's some truth to the saying that uh, women who have had a lot of partners don't pair bond as well, versus, you know, our grandparents who married young and married forever. I've been married over 20 years myself, and you know, marriage does take a little bit of effort. Once the puppy dog phase wears off, as it were, you realize that it does take a little bit of work. You're not always going to agree, but handle how you handle those things are very important. You have to be able to work through disagreements. And I find people today are too quick to, because of a lot of partly the anti-white programming that tells you that marriage is disposable. But marriage is a promise to be with somebody forever. And, you know, I guess I can't add much more there. Mr. Hans.
I wanted to comment. You know, my chair has a bar at the bottom, and my running shoe, when I stand up, it catches it, and then my chair flips every time I get up. It's new shoes, so I need to solve this problem in some way. But anyway, I wanted to comment on the reaction that New Hampshire Patriot referred to when he sees a mixed couple. Now, this is a very healthy reaction, but it's so demonized. And in Hollywood movies, that reaction comes from a very bad place. But from Ashley Giardino's research, we know that at about 50% of white people have a positive white identity, and these people, they very much don't like to see our beautiful variations of hair, eye color, facial features be biologically white erased. They don't like that at all, but they have no way to articulate it. They have no way to even think about it without white guilting themselves. So all we need to do to activate them is to give them the moral position. And the moral position is simply that we need white families because it's necessary for the continuation of our people. And what's more moral than wanting the continuation of your own people? It's not about harming anyone else. It's about, if you have a problem with a future filled with beautiful, bubbly little white babies, then you are anti-white. It's as simple as that.
Very well said. As usual, Hans. Very well said. Arrests, or it doesn't matter. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah. How y'all doing? This is actually a great conversation. The attack on white well-being, white families is so insidious, and so it's become such it's like this multifaceted attack where they have twisted feminism to mean it's no longer about equality, and so you have females that are then have the these expectations and all of these other factors that are introduced that you know needlessly complicate things. I would say, again, just my opinion. And then you have men on the other side of that who are giving up. They're just like, well, they're throwing in the towel. They don't feel like they're worth anything. And not to mention at this point, I don't know what the last little fact that I read about the number, but it's a couple million transgender individuals. So you convinced an entire generation of young men to remove their genitals. It's unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable. And I have met people, and I don't honestly, I've never, I've had to end the conversations really because I don't really have a response. What do you say to another white person that really believes that no, less white people is a good thing? I mean, they're anti-white, plain and simple. And yeah, I'm not sure if I added anything to the conversation other than more questions, but I think about this a lot actually because I have a family. My children are still small yet, but I worry greatly for them, right? And I don't know. I think that's all I got, but this is a very good conversation. Something that I'm really interested in. I really appreciate everybody's point of view. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you hopping into the conversation. In this community, we understand that both the whole transgenderism thing and feminism are just different subsects of anti-whiteism for slightly different reasons, which I'm guessing Hans is about to brilliantly articulate. So I'll pass it over to Mr. Hans.
Well, I wanted actually to talk about the person who says that fewer white people is a good thing. Now, in some cases, that would be just someone who is so vehemently anti-white that the person you cannot reach that person. But it may also be someone who really feels that and is just honest in articulating it. And I would like to point out to that person how they got to that conclusion, because if you just put the seed in the person's mind that there's a narrative, it's the anti-white narrative, it's in every movie, in every news headline, and what that narrative says is, it says whites are uniquely evil and responsible for everything that goes wrong. So if you are in this, you are a fish and you swim in this ocean, and this is the poison in the water. There's no escape. The only escape is to be aware of it and start noticing that. And then leave it like that. This is not a one conversation resolution. And if the person because once you identify the anti-white narrative, and you can give a few examples. For instance, take the top 5 favorite movies, and I can almost guarantee you the final boss has blue eyes. Go and look at or just do a Google search for New York Times headlines. You see, if race is in the headline, it's inside the anti-white narrative. If race is not in the headline, it's inside the anti-white narrative. And what I mean by that is these are hush crimes and hate hoaxes. When it supports the anti-white narrative, you'll see the race in the headline. When it contradicts it, the race is nowhere to be found. This is anti-white narrative. And once people are alerted to this, their pattern recognition should kick in. Otherwise, they just decided that they have this murderous envy inside of them, and then you can do nothing about it.
So, Arrested, you have anything further?
No, but I'm gonna try that. One of the people is one of my cousins, actually. So I'll end up talking to her again at some point. I'm certain. I've done we normally get together during holidays and stuff like that. So I do my best to, unfortunately, to keep the peace, which is another difficult aspect of this. That's that insidious nature of all this stuff. And that anti-white narrative really it's in absolutely everything. It's absolutely everywhere. And I struggle to point it out sometimes, articulate it in a way that where I'm able to be a little bit more logical about it. I tend to be kind of emotional about it still, because talking about it for too long, I end up getting angry. I end up showing my anger. I can't help it. Not that again, and that's one of the things that really attracted me to Jason and his his podcast and the white well-being movement is I have no disdain for anyone else. Like I don't wish harm or ill. I have no ill will towards any other race. But the idea that white people are somehow not able to prosper, that are somehow not able to be celebrated, that somehow, I see the news from, UK where, you can fly a trans flag wherever you want. You could fly a Palestinian flag wherever you want, but, you just fly Union Jack or the, what is it? The one with the red cross and the St. George, the flag of England, then that's something that has to be done in like a designated protest area. Like I just saw that, I think today or yesterday on X, and it just, it makes me angry. Quite frankly, it makes me really angry. But I mean, I think bringing, which is counterproductive. That's counterproductive because I need to, I try to do my best to be as forthcoming, but also as understanding, right? Because I know there's plenty of people that have been understanding with me along the way, and I'm still, I would say, new on my white well-being journey. Though I've instinctually known that there was something wrong my whole life. I've grown up in America, and I've known my entire life that something wasn't quite right, And anyway, yeah, thank you.
Well, let me say welcome to White Wellbeing and welcome to this community. I think you'll find that we have quite a few very interesting conversations that you can learn from. Mr. Hans.
Yes, so that incident with the flag, the blonde girl who waved the flag, and then the policeman, it's a policewoman and a policeman, came around her. The policeman grabbed the flag and the policewoman held her back. So this is a powerful, these incidents, they are the canvas on which we spread our concepts. And the concepts relevant here is the fact that this anti-white narrative that the West is set up for Western kind is fiction. Because look around you and what do you see? You see special privileges, preferential treatment, freedom from responsibility for non-whites, and the opposite for white people. White people have all the restrictions. So this contradicts the anti-white narrative. So this is how we use these things. Is another thing that you can say is this is white erasure, because white erasure is not only non-whites coming into your country, it's a white erasure of every expression of your Western culture, which those flags are. Those flags are symbols of your history. And white erasure means we just don't want to see that. And the fact that there's now designated areas where you can fly that flag, that's temporary, because there will come a time where that will be a hate symbol. South Africa, you can look on the ADL website. Our Republican flag is a hate symbol now. You will get prosecuted if you fly that flag in South Africa. And this is where it's going. So it's white erasure. So that's another, we talked about the anti-white narrative, but white erasure is another one of those reductionist concepts. Once you learn to recognize it, you'll see it everywhere. So yes, we have these powerful concepts, and this is only a handful of them: anti-white narrative, anti-whiteism, white erasure, biospirit, Western kind, us crime, hate hoax, numerical diffidence, numerical courage. Only a handful of these concepts. And the thing is, you don't need to win the argument, because when you introduce this concept, this is a new term that a person can use to think with. It changes their thinking. So very powerful. And this is why I don't try to win the argument. I just slip in the language and then retreat. It's like a hand grenade, a delayed hand grenade.
Yeah, Hans is quite effective at that, I assure you. We have a little meme with the 6 key concepts. I dropped it down below, and it should appear in the Jumbotron whenever X decides to spit it out, which is apparently just about now. Anti-white, anti-whiteism, anti-white narrative, Western kind, white erasure, and white well-being. Those are our 6 key concepts. I didn't have too much more to go today. I figured we'd call it a little bit early. So if you don't have anything in particular, Hans, I think I'll just send it around for a final. Anything in particular?
I'm good.
Sometimes excellent. All right. So with that, I'm going to send it around for final thoughts, and then we'll get out of here. I'll start with New Hampshire Patriot. Your final thoughts, brother.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. I would just say, continue your white excellence. Continue in your stride for everything you do. Don't let the lesser of the evils, deter you from who you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to do. You're a leader, not just in your family, but in life. You are what people look up to. Be that, and just continue life and praise Jesus.
Mr. Blue Flame, your final thoughts, brother.
Yeah, another interesting few topics to broach. Guess it was one that is a little bit oriented around all the types of decay that happen to, let's say, the planet in general. When when we allow our boundaries to be, trodden upon, even if it is out of sheer naivety, if nothing else. And I think for me that is something that I will take away from this as well, is that we have a very unhealthy habit with lowering our guards over and over. And we might be able to do that among our own, for most part, not always naturally. But that at the same time, many anti-whites in all their varying creeds or whatever races they come from or what have you, overstepping boundaries, disrespecting boundaries, inviting themselves, imposing themselves. At the end of the day, it's again, they will keep doing it until we decide to become a people again, and we tell them to look at the footprints that they have left behind themselves, that where they have trodden over the lines in the sand, so to speak, that we have been drawn to have environments for ourselves that are healthy, that are safe, that do resonate with who we are. And yeah, if they would be wise, then they would definitely go back down those steps, and later on they will be given the bill. That's at least where I stand on that. But that is all for the future, and as it stands now, yeah, for most part, I guess just keep calling it out. It's the best we can do, and it's a towering task to keep all of these amazing men and women, in the mind, so to speak, to remember them all. With all of the best will, it will always still be a challenge. But it is very important, and I can't wait to see more libraries in the future where they will each have their own little section, libraries/museum, and that they will indeed be remembered for every little and big thing they did. With that said, I bid you all the great remainder of your day and evening. Bye bye.
Thank you for that. It's interesting you mentioned the library. I was just thinking I should check my local library and see if Go Free is there. And if not, I think I will donate a copy so that they have one. Mr. Cardia Nebula, your final thoughts.
Hey, yeah.
I'm not hearing you. I don't think you got enough signal, brother.
Okay, well, can you hear me?
A little bit. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Alrighty, man. I know sometimes you're working and it's usually a little tough for you to get in there. No problem. Mr. Biosphere of the West.
Yeah, I'd just like to acknowledge how great it is that we have new people coming in and joining our community. Welcome, and it goes to show that the Shade Tree White Wellbeing space is exponentially reaching more and more of our people. It's wonderful. And I also wanted to say to Blue Flame, it's sounded like the last couple of days like you've had a cold, and I hope you're feeling better soon. And that's it. Look forward to seeing you all under the next Shade Tree space.
Yeah, but Blue Flame is sounding a little rough, brother. I hope you feel better, man. Mr. Russ, or it doesn't matter. Any final thoughts from you, sir?
No, I don't think so. I mean, thank you very much for the warm welcome. This is actually really cool. I've enjoyed it very much. And it's really informative. I definitely, I like that, Hans. I'm gonna absolutely drop the anti-white hand grenades and then retreat in my next encounter with my cousin. So, thanks for that.
I hear a cute little one in the background.
Yeah, they
We are here every day. We're here every day at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, just for reference. And of course, I'll repeat that again in the outro. But just so you know, we are here pretty much every day. Mr. Hans, your final thoughts.
I thought you forgot about me. Thanks. Thanks, everyone. It was a great space. Have a great day and see you tomorrow.
Now, how could I forget about you, Hans? Never in a million years, brother. With that, this has been the Monday edition of the Shade Tree White Wellbeing and WG Space. We meet here daily at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on X. And we also stream this on YouTube. We practice the Go Free lexicon and concepts as developed by Jason Kuna, Mr. No White Guilt himself. You can find him here on X as at No White Guilt NWG. Elsewhere is simply No White Guilt, and on the web at nowhiteguilt.org. I want to thank each and every one of the speakers and all of you who showed up to listen, whether on X or YouTube. You all make this space possible by bringing your diverse experience, skill sets, and intelligence here for all of us to share. Without all of your participation, whether as speakers or listeners, it would just be me, a handsome old man rambling into space. Thanks again. I truly appreciate you all. Enjoy the rest of your day or evening. I do love you all, and I hope to see you all tomorrow under the shade tree where we continue to go free. Bye bye.
Our children are priceless, and we would do anything to protect them. So why aren't you using Go Free to protect them from the most harmful ideas? Decades in the making, Go Free is a simple yet brilliant practice designed to free us from destructive socio-political ideas. As words are the tools with which we think, Go Free promotes precise, simple, and targeted language to counteract psychological warfare. When you go free of the system's control over your word choice, you liberate your thinking. As you grow, you can empower others. And the most important thing you can do is inoculate our children against the ideas that are meant to harm them.
Are you noticing changes in our country you find troubling? Do you feel unsafe and at a loss to remedy these fundamental shifts? Have you found the book Go Free by Jason Kuna? The Go Free method provides excellent meme curatives and specific language skills to overcome the anti-white psychological warfare being waged against us across the West. Go Free, a guide to aligning with the archetype of Western kind by Jason Kuna, available on Amazon.